penulis. Sama kayak baca buku, nulis juga dia nggak pernah selesai.
Suatu saat nanti ya, buku aku tuh akan keluar. Dengan judul sampulnya, New York Times bestseller.
Setiap cerita yang gue bikin, gue tuh nggak tahu bikin endingnya gimana.
Saya mau minta maaf soal kemarin. Saya nggak tahu apa yang ada di kepala saya.
Maunya kamu tuh apa sih?
Saya sayang kamu.
After taking a look at my favorite films, Fiksi is the one closest to my heart. Besides being Indonesian, it encapsulates an emotion, a vibe, an idea, one of being a sheltered child from a rich family. But it's more than that though. It's also about having an obsessive crush over someone, but you can't communicate properly, so you go on a murdering spree. You'll see how those two things are related, but anyways, I didn't know I related to it so much. Seeing this emotion be described in film made me realize I wasn't lonely in my struggles when I was young. It's one of those films that's difficult to describe the point of, and at the same time perfectly captures that specific idea. And yes, we'll get into the yandere stuff a bit later. For now, I just want to let my heart out, show how much this film affected me. So this video is going to be going through the plot of Fiksi while discussing my thoughts as well, analyzing each scene as deep as I could. So let's get started. Before getting into the movie, I went on a bit of a research rabbit hole and wanted more production information behind Fiksi and Molly Surya's history as a director in general. She first studied media and literature in Australia, got a master's in arts, and as a graduation project to prove her mettle as a director, made the short film called Doll. I watched it myself, and I mean it wasn't great, but it was just a student film. The dialogue had awkward English, mostly about the conversation between a small girl and a man about the girl's father, which then leads her to stabbing the crap out of a doll. I mean, having issues with her father is a common issue for young girls, but I doubt she was trying to get points based off of quality script writing. If the point was to prove how you can control actors on a scene, this film does its purpose. But I did watch Molly Surya and Rama Adi discuss her student film together, and I do know they're a married couple. The whole video honestly feels like a conversation between newlyweds. They mentioned this video was meant to be inspiration for upcoming directors, and it was genuinely motivating and information learning what she was going through to get her student film made. This video made me seriously question my decision to get a university major I wasn't interested in, and I kind of want to switch over to film, even though I'm already on my second last semester in my studies. Anyways, after graduating, she came back to Indonesia. She worked as an assistant director on a few comedy movies and eventually gained enough funding for her own movie, Fiksi. She and Rama Adi collaborated and founded their own film production company, Cine Surya. She developed the screenplay herself, describing it as a summary of her own identity when she wrote it, and collaborated with Joko Anwar, who was impressed with the script so much he helped co-write it. And according to the behind the scenes, he contributed to the world building of the apartment, being inspired from his own experiences. So I think it's kind of interesting that Surya wrote the character, but Anwar wrote the surrounding world. Upon release in 2008, Fiksi received critical acclaim, Surya winning Best Director, being the only woman to have ever won that award, Best Picture, Best Screenplay, and Best Original Score at the 28th Citra Awards, but it bombed commercially, unfortunately. Surya then worked on other movies such as What They Don't Talk About When They Talk About Love, a movie about love between characters with different disabilities, and Marlena, The Murderer in 4 Acts, a thriller about a woman getting revenge after being sexually assaulted. She touches upon subjects I've been heavily thinking about in my adult life and is such an inspirational figure for upcoming directors, at least for me, and in my opinion, one of the best Indonesian directors, up there with Yandy Lawrence, and I'm definitely gonna keep following her work. For my own personal connection with this movie, I was in a transitionary moment in my life with aspirations of being in filmmaking to some degree, so I did my due diligence by watching anything that had Joko Anwar's name in it. Naturally, I needed to be more knowledgeable of my own country's films, so that's how I found out about Fiksi. And I didn't really understand it the first time watching it, but I knew even on the surface, this was a film I connected with on a deep personal level. Nowadays, I have a better grasp and really want to delve into why I love it so much. So let's get started with the summary and analysis of this film. In the first few minutes, we already get so much information of what Alisha, our main character's life, is like. We see her collection of dolls, her father arriving in a fancy car and walks around in her huge empty mansion alone, then a wide shot of her playing on her cello. We can already gather that she is a lonely, sheltered child spoiled by her rich family. We get a dialogue scene between her and her father, who clearly have a troubled relationship. He is a caring father who gives her anything she wants, but she really just wants something to do. I enjoy analyzing individual shots and just look at the literal and metaphorical metaphorical distance between these two characters as they're sitting across from each other on a huge table. Next, we get a job interview scene. The employer doesn't say it outright, but Alisha can tell he is not impressed by her work. After a call, he comes back to say she's hired, but she questions his contradicting attitude. He confronts her back, calling her rude. She leaves, not taking the job. I've had interviews before. I don't say anything rude outright, but I haven't been successful in them either since I never make a good first impression. The conversation is always awkward and bumbling. Sometimes I say something that reveals too much about my negative character. I relate to Alisha fully here for just simply being too different. I'm trying to find an internship as of writing, so please wish me luck, guys. Thank you. The following scene has themes of suicide, so just a warning. Flashback to Alisha's childhood, she follows her pregnant mother who reveals their father's plan to shoot her dead. He's cheating on her, and this mistress orders the father to kill his wife, aka Alisha's mother, after her brother is born. But she is going to shoot herself before that. Whoa, watch where you're pointing that thing. She's gonna kill Alisha as well to not let the mistress possess her, but she can't do it. Her parting words are, "Everything happens for a reason," and then she pulls the trigger. So that was a scene and a half. I was super gung-ho about everything before this point. I thought the character setup was super relatable and tasteful until, well, this. But we do get a phrase that will stick with Alisha until her adult life. Everything happens for a reason. Next scene, this is where Alisha meets the man who will change her life. Well, not meet, really, stalks at first. The guy who cleans her pool. I don't know who's going to be watching this, but I should explain for an international audience that household servants are common in Indonesia and other less wealthier countries have these household servants too. I miss how cheap the labor was, honestly. And for a rich family like Alisha's, you'd have multiple servants, like a maid to clean the house, a driver, someone who tended the lawn and stuff. Just like Alisha, because I'm from a privileged family, my family had a pool and we hired someone to clean it. I make this point because these would be the kind of people you'd be interacting with daily besides whoever is at school or work. And considering Alisha doesn't have siblings and she just graduated, she doesn't have school or work, and her only human connections are with her servants. So she immediately latches onto this pool cleaner. Maybe out of nothing else to do or just a desire to connect with someone, anyone. I feel better about myself for having siblings at least. She notices this man stealing bunny figures, and instead of calling him out on it, she decides to keep giving it to him by refilling the cabinet. It's not really normal behavior to do this, even if you were kind-hearted and wanted to keep giving these bunnies to him. You should give them directly. But she plays this game where she keeps letting him think he's getting away by stealing these bunnies while also giving him the bunnies he wants. This indirect communication is a microcosm of what's to come down the line. Alisha refuses to talk directly to anyone about her actions or emotions, which makes her so interesting. The reason why she doesn't communicate directly is never revealed. Maybe she's too shy to talk to him, scared of intimidating him because of her higher position, who knows. That's just the kind of character Alisha is. After that point, she's obsessed with him. She asks her maid where he went after noticing he doesn't clean the pool that day, and turns out he doesn't work here anymore. The maid asks why back, and Alisha responds, no reason. I can see why she'd be secretive. It's embarrassing to admit you want to get closer to one of your servants. She's left in this position where her emotions are balled up inside her, and she's not willing to release it to anyone. Once the man doesn't show up anymore, she goes to the place where the man usually hangs out and waits for him to show up until nightfall. He eventually does show up, and instead of going to talk to him, she stalks him to where he lives. She finds out he has a girlfriend and that there is a vacancy next door. It is really tempting to just go up and talk to him like he's right there and you're really interested in him, but that's part of the problem. Like, just talk about what? It's a bit creepy to say you're interested in him when he has never met you, and Alisha is just meddling in his life. But she can't help herself. Her heart has decided to be obsessed with this man. It results in this awkward, so close and yet so far type of relationship, which I will explore a bit more later. Anyway, I know what she's going through. I had crushes before when I was young, and I still kind of do in college as well nowadays. I mean, I've learned to act more normal and be able to talk to them at least, but I'm just saying I used to be in her position and completely understand Alisha's one-sided emotions towards someone. Once she's back, her maid and driver question her actions. Why has she been outside for so long? But she doesn't want them interfering with her business. Her behavior is seen as suspicious to the people taking care of her. To them, she's seen as rebellious, and it's partially because she refuses to talk to them about her embarrassing affection toward this stranger. I can't tell if it's embarrassment, actually. I don't know what's inside Alicia's heart, but she recognizes it's not normal behavior and isn't willing to discuss this emotion with others. One thing I like about this movie is we can only guess what Alisha is thinking, but not get any clear-cut answers. I suppose that's why I'm making this video, to speculate what her thoughts are on any given scene. But I mention it because we see her grab something expensive and give it to her driver to say sorry for what happened yesterday. Turns out it was part of her plan to lower his suspicions when she gets driven to her cello place and dips to a taxi, then moves into the room next to the man she's obsessed with. Up to this point, I related to everything Alisha was going through, but it's clear here she goes to the extreme that I'm not willing to. I'm interested where this takes her. Although, I have written similar female manipulative characters before who have extravagant plans to get what they want, and we see Alisha here give off a satisfying smile once her plan is executed without a hitch, and yeah, it does feel nice. I want to dive deeper into this for a second. I don't think we've seen her emote yet, at least not positively, which is a bit weird considering her privileged position at the beginning. We see her in a huge mansion, treated like a princess given anything she wants from her father, so ideally she should be happy here. She has the freedom to do anything she wants, but ends up lonely and miserable. Only once she does something completely independently and gains true freedom despite causing trouble for everyone around her, she smiles. I just find it interesting her happiness is very different from the contemporary idealistic view of happiness. So yeah, that was just a little bit of extra analysis on a single shot of her smiling, I guess. We see Alisha acquaint with her new apartment, and once she sees the man enter his room, she starts banging her sink pipe. Naturally, the next door neighbors would want her to be quiet, aka that man she's obsessed with, so he comes to check it out. He simply rotates the pipe and it's not clogged anymore. It's hard to tell whether Alisha planned this or not, but I like to think that she did. Now that she has him here and they had a reason to meet, which is to fix her pipe. Her pipe is fixed now, so what do they talk about? They stand around awkwardly. Man, this also hits close to home. I mean, I'm not a master conversationalist who can just whip up topics out of thin air, but I want to be around my crush anyways. I'm fine with just existing besides them. Sadly, they probably will just think it's an awkward situation and would want to leave soon. I mean, look at that 1000 watt smile. I feel like me and Alisha have similar tastes as well, people who are naturally charming and positive. Maybe it's something we lack in our own character. Anyways, he says his name is Bari and has a water filter she can borrow, and she follows him. We learn he's a writer. Hell yeah, dude, I write too, that's so cool. And his girlfriend likes rabbits, and he has been collecting them for her. As Bari and his girlfriend Renta talk like, well, a couple, I can only assume in Alicia's heart her jealousy is growing. Even worse is, she can hear them having fun next door. This is where I wanted to explore the so close and yet so far kind of relationship I was talking about. Bari, her crush, is physically close to her at all times, living right next to her, but emotionally I suppose he's still distant. Even though she finally lives next to him, there are major hurdles to overcome before being able to claim him, basically. The big one being that he has a girlfriend and they are still quite affectionate for each other. It's this awkward but mostly frustrating relationship where again, he is so close, but you can't just easily love him, resulting in situations where you have to hear the man you love have sex with someone else right next door. I had my fair share of these types of situations, too awkward to even discuss here, but for one reason or another I could never just connect with my crush in any meaningful way. So Bari hears Alisha's cello playing, which interests him. They talk about why they live in these apartments, and Bari says it's for inspiration for his writing. But the issue is, he can never find a way for his stories to end. It's probably because he uses real people as inspiration. In fiction, stories have to end eventually, but for these real people, life just goes on. This line is the most memorable in the whole film, and it stuck with me for a while. I enjoy how introspective Bari is as a character and how this is antithetical to Alicia's everything happens for a reason mentality, which I'll touch upon later. But the scene after this one is quite magical. Alisha says she hasn't been given a tour of the apartments yet, and Bari is excited to give her one. They go through the whole apartment block, revealing a criminal underbelly. The apartment turns out to be a den of thieves-like kind of world. Each floor focusing on different types of degeneracy: transsexuals, homosexuals, prostitutes, drug dealers, and so on. Unrelated note, but the top floor is abandoned because people are scared of ghosts inhabiting after the old building burned down. And after this, Bari shows off the inspiration for his stories. A crazy cat lady who owns tons of cats and doesn't come outside besides taking out the trash. Another story about a prideful, stubborn man who refuses to come into his building. If he does, he feels like the contractors who destroyed the old building would have won. And then there's a gay couple who are son and father, keeping it secret from the rest of their family. Even after getting all this inspiration, Bari isn't able to write the proper ending for any of them. Nothing feels right. Feels they need to be accurate and realistic to some extent. And the next scene, Bari gives his scripts for Alisha to read. So that was just like so much in a small amount of time. That whole scene was only like 10 minutes long and gave us so much information. Important information that will affect the rest of the story. I want to go through my thoughts before moving forward. First off, just based off my impression, what I felt watching the scene, it felt like falling down a rabbit hole, delving into a different world. So much can be explored and much more can be said about this place than on the surface details that Bari is explaining to us. Alice in Wonderland has been brought up a few times, not in the film itself, but in the camera test, Alisha is reading an excerpt of Alice in Wonderland, and it was mentioned by the director, Miss Surya, in behind the scenes that Alice in Wonderland was a big inspiration for the screenplay. She describes the original story as about Alice falling into a world of fantasy, but in Fiksi, the main character is discovering harsh reality. I doubt that's a coincidence. Alisha sounds awfully similar to Alice. I think this scene, out of all scenes, portrayed the Alice in Wonderland theme the best. Secondly, the amount of sexual degeneracy present in these apartments. I'm sure in more progressive societies, an apartment full of gay people is normal, but a majority of Indonesians are Muslim, and LGBT is usually looked down upon in Islam, which would explain why the main audience, Indonesians, find an apartment building full of homosexuals and transsexuals weird. Many Indonesians I know simply cannot understand why someone would be LGBT, which would make this world seem all the weirder. Lastly, the pure density of information here is astounding. Besides inviting us into this world, some details actually get brought up again. Information Bari gives that Alisha uses against him, specifically the top floor being abandoned, which we'll get to later. And each story Bari mentions, which are all interesting on the surface, gets brought back up again once Alisha interferes with their lives. Just wanted to give a bravo for the tight writing. Okay, so after that scene, we see an extended scene of Alisha surrounded by Bari's writing. I can tell it was directed with the beauty of the shot in mind, and also a doll is just there. So that's a good segue. I wanted to talk about them. These dolls fit the vibe of the movie. Alisha collects quite a few of them, and must be something she was interested in when she was young, and her father bought them for her. Renta collects rabbit dolls as well. These are used as gifts from Alisha to gain her trust, which will then be betrayed, but that's for later on. Rabbits are of course iconic Alice in Wonderland imagery, and the same girl interested in Alice in Wonderland would also probably be into dolls. But last and most importantly, Alisha herself is doll-like. The same way a young girl would take care of a fragile doll. In the world that Alisha used to live in, she was treated like a doll. And I could reword this in another way. The same way that Alisha sees beauty in a doll, we see in Alisha. So that's how I think dolls are kind of related to all of this. Before the plot moves again, and since we are talking about how Alisha is doll-like, I want to talk about her fit. It is absolutely adorable. The clothes she's wearing. I need to know where she gets her wardrobe. Whoever is the wardrobe supervisor needs a raise. Everything she wears fits her character so well, and I can tell a lot of work was put into what she would be wearing. It's exactly what a rich, pompous, picky girl would be wearing. They all scream aesthetic, they're all super frilly and flowery, both stylish and comfortable. And I gotta mention those striped knee socks. So these aren't just casual clothes. They're like meticulously picked high-class dresses. Anywho, I just really did not want to miss this detail. I'm sadly not a fashion guy, so I can't analyze it any deeper, but I appreciate the effort and I seriously value this part of the movie. Yes, her wardrobe. I literally just can't ignore clothes this cute. Anywho, we get a dream sequence of her mother visiting her. Just a reminder of the everything happens for a reason line, which are the lines that will motivate her actions for the rest of the movie. As I said before, Alisha's actions are mysterious even to the audience until it all becomes clearer later on. She meets someone taking out the trash and being way too nice to him. It turns out it's the son of the son-father gay couple introduced earlier. She helps her with some homework and discreetly gets his mother's number. I have to mention this, and I hate being negative, but one genuine flaw of this movie that breaks my immersion a bit is the acting. It could be better, honestly, but I'm not gonna focus on it. So she calls his mother, telling her she knows where they are. The son-father gay couple crashes their party, and we hear a gunshot. Bari tells her the story, not knowing she caused the incident, and she says she was there when it happened. Bari comforts her, but Alisha wants to get all touchy-feely. He's kind of disgusted and moves away, but Alisha takes the initiative. The movie respects the actors, and everyone stays clothed. After it happens, we get a shot of silence, assumedly regret of what just happened. Alisha uncovers the bedsheet, showing her blood, which could only mean one thing. That I'm not saying. Well, I suppose Alisha gets what she wants, though. This troubles Bari, of course, who keeps it secret to his girlfriend Renta. Bari notices, weird things about Alisha's behavior. She isn't really acting like a normal person. But about the gay couple dying, that inspires him to continue his story at least. In the morning, Alisha calls Renta about buying rabbit dolls for her, and Bari overhears this, getting even more suspicious of Alisha. So we're just going through the motions of the story. Alisha puts the crazy cat lady's cats into the trash can, which causes her to commit suicide. Bari confronts Alisha where she was, and she uses the morning call to Renta as an alibi. Bari is still catching on though. This is all too convenient. The person he told the stories to just moved in. The people in those stories are dying conveniently for his stories to end. Alisha has nothing to say to him. Bari tells Renta what he truly thinks of Alisha. She's too suspicious and is just trying to get her affection by giving her rabbit dolls. I just realized that this is a common tactic for Alisha. She finds out what another person wants, gives it, and then betrays them immediately afterwards. But we'll see how that'll pan out soon. Anywho, another dream sequence with her mother. Now she's been shooting her younger self. Her mother did ask her to kill herself, and it's possible she already did, but not in a literal way. More so in a loss of innocence way. Not being able to be the same person after going so far, after killing someone. She killed her younger self. She's not her anymore. So that was my reading at first, but the scene afterwards implies she killed her younger self because she lost her virginity to Bari, which would explain the next scene where she gives him her blood-stained bed sheets. Maybe Alisha just didn't know how to communicate it, but she just wanted to say, "You made me lose my virginity, which is a precious moment for me and we should get closer." That's what I assume, at least. It's an important moment for Alisha, but considering his suspicions toward her, he's disgusted by her actions and throws it in the trash. There's a big scene between Alisha and Bari where they finally confront each other. What does Alisha want from him? She finally confesses and says straight up she loves him, but she doesn't expect anything in return. Bari just wants to leave her and talk to Renta, but she says Renta doesn't need to know about anything. Just focus on your stories. But Bari hates his stories. The endings are too cliche. His story too, where he cheats on his girlfriend for a psychopath. But from now, Alisha won't bother him. Everything will go back to the beginning. My heart was racing at that scene. There's a lot to unpack here. I think Alisha was pushed here to finally admit her feelings. She couldn't hide it anymore, but at the same time is acquiescent to the fact that Bari doesn't care if she loves him. His bond with Arenta is too strong and Alisha can't push them away. Well, that is until we know what Alisha is planning, which could explain her cryptic wording of everything will be the same as before. Damn, she said the P word. This is the first hint of self-awareness Alisha has of her own actions throughout the film. Lastly, the scene made me realize how meta the story is, as expected of a title that's just translated as fiction, I suppose. So these two characters in the story are kind of puppet masters for characters in the stories that they are writing. There are layers here. On the bottom, people living in the apartment building, and above them all, Bari and Alisha. Bari noticing their interesting lives to write about, and Alisha conducting their endings. Alisha herself fits the role as a psychopath who toys around with people's lives with no remorse. So I just wanted to bring up this layered world the screenplay creates. Renta mistrusts Bari, thinking she got cheated on after having her conversation with Alisha. Renta leaves him with the message, "Finish your stories," and he can't contact her no more. So we'll get back to that later. But for now, we get an interesting first-person monologue of our last victim, the man sitting outside his room. He has a family. His daughter, who's about to get married, will bring her fiancé here. Thing is, it'll leave a bad impression if he's just sitting outside their room like a hobo. He gets scolded and walks away to the balcony where Alisha pushes him off. Okay, Alicia's plan here, she didn't have any involvement in the murder besides pushing him off. There's no setup. Anyways, I thought the switch to first-person monologue was quite innovative. Bari confronts Alisha again, and she says she's been out all afternoon, but Bari knows better. Suddenly we get a scene where Alisha meets with Renta, who should have moved out already. She's not happy to see her, but she lures her to the top floor and knocks her out. Then she types out the message Renta supposedly wrote for Bari to finish his stories. All that interspersed with her playing the cello, which adds to the tragedy of the scene. It turns out that scene was a flashback. It makes sense now why Renta wants him to finish his stories. It was actually Alisha who wrote it. And also, I wish I had the ingenuity to write an anachronistic screenplay that explains past events. It made sense the first time. The audience was kind of lied to, seeing it from Bari's perspective. We thought Renta left him because Renta thought Bari was cheating, but of course it turns out Alisha was responsible for the truth. We were tricked by Alisha just like Bari was. Bari sees Alisha in his room and figures out she has Renta's keys. Alisha must have done something to her, but she won't budge any information. He realizes he told her the 9th floor is abandoned and checks there immediately. Renta was there tied up and not breathing. Bari clutches Renta in his arms, crying. Alisha walks slowly away from the commotion she caused. With a doll in her hand, she falls from the balcony. The very last scene, Bari's outside a bookstore and meets with a different woman. They walk away and it turns out he was staring at the book he published. On the display was a book called Fiksi. The end. What can I say but absolute cinema? Bari must be a completely different person. I mean, all that happened to him during the movie, that should change a man, I assume. Even worse, despite the deaths, he still kind of exploited them to finish his book. Maybe he feels some guilt from it all. So I skipped discussing Alicia's death for the sake of pace, but yeah, she ended her own story. I mean, she did live for the sake of Bari, and after he realized she killed his girlfriend, he will want nothing to do with her anymore, so she might as well end her life. Maybe she thought she still had a chance with him after finishing his stories, but now that he was sure Alisha Alisha caused her girlfriend's death. That's the last straw. Also, someone's first love would cause people to do insane things, including offing themselves. I don't necessarily have experience, but I have heard of stories of similar things happening. So I just wanted to give a bonus from the behind the scene. Alisha's actress, Ladia Cheryl, heard they could get a stuntman to replace her for the jumping off building scene, but she felt confident enough to do the scene herself, which I think is cool. By the way, if I was Alisha, my plan would be to plant evidence Renta was cheating, which would hopefully cause Bari to become suspicious of her and love Alisha instead. But to be fair, I did not expect a happy ending for Alisha anyways. She did way too many morally wrong things to get a pass. She didn't seem like a character worthy of redemption from the beginning either, and it's a sign of strength to kill off your own main character this way, especially if it is based on your own real identity. I did say I wrote a similarly manipulative female character before, and I didn't even have the balls to kill her off. I redeemed her. So yeah, that was Fiksi. I think I want to tie this all up in a nice bow about what I think the film is about, because it is generally kind of hard to parse. Two things I want to discuss. First, there were two lines that kind of contradict each other, the two most memorable lines in the film. Fantasy, or fiction, has an ending, but in the real world, life goes on. And the other line, everything happens for a reason. Alisha is motivated by her mother's last words to give an ending to all of Bari's stories. This is the philosophical element of the film that can be taken in a million different ways, but I want to give my take on it as an enthusiastic philosophy autodidact myself. We need to define what exactly we will be talking about so I make any sense. What we are going to discuss specifically is the difference between fiction and reality, so keep that in mind. Bari thinks the difference between fiction and reality is that fiction ends and reality goes on. Alisha does too, and this I disagree with, so let me explain. I think there was a misunderstanding, but an understandable misunderstanding. Personally, I don't think the difference between fiction and reality is that fiction has an ending. Reality will end too someday. It's just our human lives are too long and stories are shorter. You know, think of your favorite historical figure. Their lives are a story. Maybe if Alisha's mother instead said, all things must end, this conflict would be made much clearer, motivating Alisha to end all of Bari's stories. But instead she said, everything happens for a reason. And I really want to analyze this line more, which to me is the real difference between reality and fiction. Well, sort of, in a way. In fiction, the reason or meaning of a story is meant to be put on display, made clear as possible. But for reality, there is quote-unquote no clear meaning. Things just happen. The meaning needs to be sought for. Let's take Bari's stories for example. The cat lady decides to take care of tons of cats and barely leaves her room. It's not normal behavior, so there must be a reason why she acts the way she does. Maybe she doesn't have anyone else in her life, but, you know, humans are social animals, so she decided to find social comfort in her cats. For the gay couple, we don't know why the father-son couple became a couple. Maybe some twisted sense of love, a familial relationship becoming a romantic one instead. Lastly, the guy outside of his room, the reason is most clear. His prideful personality doesn't want to let the new building owners to win, so he doesn't go into his room. All of these stories lead to these kind of beautiful, tragic situations. That reasoning of how these situations came to be, we can guess and speculate, but whatever it is, we know that there must be a reason. Fiction is when the reasoning is made clear. Once Bari notices everyone's strange situation, he finds it interesting and writes about it. On the surface, these situations don't explain themselves. They're all in unique, bizarre situations, but Bari, in his writing, can give explanations to them. What makes the everything happens for a reason line so interesting is because it blurs the line between reality and fiction. The reason should only be clear in fiction, but the line states the reason can be uncovered and made clear in reality as well. Alisha gives her own meaning to their stories by ending them, and this is to appease Bari. But she misunderstands this, giving meaning by ending Bari's stories when those stories already had meaning in themselves. They just needed to be analyzed to know why they became the way they are. The stories were kind of already at their ending, the most logical conclusion they could be. Killing them didn't add anything to their story or change their meaning, really. Anywho, that's my vague philosophical rambling, take that as you will. I think this part of the film can be analyzed further or have some different interpretations, so tell me what you think. The second thing I wanted to discuss was Alisha's character. what kind of person she's like, what actions she'd take if given the agency and taken to the extreme. The story is too personal for Alisha's character to not come from a real place. To reiterate, the screenplay was based off of the director's self-discovery of identity at the time. Not to say she acts like this nowadays or ever has, same with me, but damn, it is such an accurate portrayal of this part of me, one let out onto the screen to play out the power fantasy, let loose and free to cause havoc, hatch and successfully execute plans and explore her twisted love. So let's explore what kind of character is Alisha. I'd say her surroundings caused her to be the way she is. She was treated like a doll, sheltered and lonely coming from a rich family. She had no siblings and no friends, whether she just doesn't keep in contact with them or her personality pushes people away. But as all humans, we still require human connection. I think in these situations, the human heart latches onto someone, anyone to fulfill it. For her, it just happened to be her pool cleaner. Being lonely, she has a lack of trust in people, which informs her manipulative psychopathic attitude. She doesn't respect others as human beings, only seeing them as beings of desire, and thinks she can appeal to those desires to get them to do what she wants. Despite her manipulative attitude, she is unable to communicate normally through words, but she does have strong emotions she wants to express, so she uses her actions instead. She does this through excessive gift-giving, appealing to the material world, which we've seen her do throughout the plot, sometimes genuinely, but sometimes for the sake of gaining others' trust. She thought her biggest gift would be an ending for her crush's stories, which only infuriated him. Seeing her actions cause so much grief toward her crush, therefore realizing she can't find her own happy ending, she ends her own story. One last message. I don't know how popular Fiksi is. It seems quite obscure in current year, but as I was writing this, the Cinesurya YouTube channel uploaded a trailer for Fiksi, so I'm staying hopeful. But after watching the behind the scenes video, Surya mentioned being inspired by Japanese comics. It made me so excited to ask what she has read and specifically what was used as inspiration for Fiksi. So yeah, hope that wraps everything up in a nice bow. I just love this film so much. It means so much to me. I relate to it on a level no other film is even close to, so I wanted to put all the passion I had about it into this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. I wish Miss Surya and everyone else who worked on the film success, and always remember, everything happens for a reason. Goodbye.